This is chapter 3 of The Stranger. The late morning sun slanted across Meridian Avenue, turning the glass facades of high-rise offices into mirrors that flashed dazzling light into the streets below. The city hummed with midday activity, taxi horns, delivery bikes weaving through traffic, clusters of suited professionals stepping in and out of revolving doors as if rehearsed. Yet beneath this orchestrated bustle, small undercurrents of change rippled. Echoes of the stranger's arrival and Joe's invitation still vibrating through the urban web. Joe Martinez stepped onto the sidewalk outside Meridian Cafe, the morning's encounter still warm in his memory. In his pocket lay 2 shimmering cards, one from the stranger. You are invited to remember who you are. And one from Sarah the barista. Tomorrow brings new possibilities. Are you ready? He'd already sipped the second into his apron at the cafe, planning to reread it as he opened the shop the next day. Now he walked toward his first real appointment in this new chapter, meeting Maya Celeste Wen, the silver-haired street musician at the corner chalk mandala spot. He carried his guitar case in one hand, Maya's invitation from yesterday, and the stranger's notebook in the other, its pages filled with swirling symbols and cryptic notes. Joe had promised to help Maya carry her instrument whenever she needed a small act of service, but also a chance to practice presence through listening to her music. As he climbed the 3 steps at the corner ledge, he found Maya already there. Her silver hair caught the sun, shimmered like spun mercury. She glanced up, her expression brightening when she saw Joe approaching. "Hey, Joe," she said, brushing a stray lock of her hair behind her ear. "Thanks for coming." "Of course," Joe replied, setting down his own messenger bag. "You said there was something you wanted to show me." Maya nodded, pulling from her bag a small brass-bound box no larger than a matchbox. She placed it on her open guitar case. "I found this under the bench this morning along with the other one of those shimmering cards." Joe retrieved his card from his apron pocket and handed it to Maya. She read it aloud. "You are invited to remember who you are." Then she opened the brass box. Inside lay a single, delicate feather, white, iridescence at the tip, soft as a whisper. "I thought it might be from the stranger," Maya said gently, lifting the feather. "It fits with the invitation like a token." Joe studied it. Feathers mean many things: lightness of being, flight, messages between worlds. Maya tucked the feather into her guitar strap. "I want to play something new today, something that helps people remember." Joe nodded. He stepped back to give her space. Maya raised her guitar and struck the first chord, a low, resonant E minor that vibrated through the air like a question. Passerby paused, curiosity drawn by the unexpected warmth of her tone. As she began to play, the city's sounds receded. Her melody was spare and haunting, weaving minor and major notes with an improvisational fluidity that suggested she was listening as much to the street's heartbeat as to her own inner song. Joe found himself closing his eyes, absorbing the shifting harmonies that seemed to echo the patterns of the stranger's notebook. When she finished, applause was sparse but sincere. People dropped coins into her open case, quarter, dime, a foreign coin or two. Yet Joe noticed they stayed longer than usual, letting the final chord resonate in their chests before walking on. Maya set down her guitar and turned to Joe. "That felt different." "Different is good," Joe said. I saw people actually looking at you, not just dropping coins and moving on. She smiled, gathering her things. Are you ready to go? She asked, fitting her guitar case onto her back. Joe hoisted his bag over one shoulder. Lead the way. They walked, shadows lengthening under the morning sun until they reached a small leafy park tucked between two office buildings. An oasis of grass and benches edged with beds of marigolds and lavender. A wrought iron fountain turned off for repairs stood silent in the center. The city's hum became a distant drone here, muffled by leaves and hemmed in sky. Maya sat on a bench and opened her case once more, handing Joe a second brass box. Identical to the first, he opened it carefully. Inside, instead of a feather, lay a tiny glass vial containing golden sand that shimmered with flecks of iridescence. What does it mean? Joe asked, tipping the vial so that light caught the grains. Trust, Maya answered. The stranger said I'd need to learn it. I think this is part of the lesson. Joe looked closely at each grain, ordinary sand transformed by something unseen, each particle a tiny memory of different shores. He closed the box thoughtfully. Trust is hard, but necessary. Maya nodded. You showed me trust yesterday by making coffee with real intention. I wanted to learn to trust my own music in the same way. They spent the next hour there, Maya playing new riffs on her guitar while Joe observed, offering gentle feedback. Try to hold that chord a beat longer, or let your voice soften on that note. They practiced presence through music, each note a meditation, each rest a moment of listening. As the sun passed its zenith, they packed up. Joe carried both brass boxes carefully in his bag, symbolic cargo destined for the stranger's hands later. Maya hoisted her guitar and they left the park, the golden sand and feather nestled safely amongst her belongings. Meanwhile, across town, Elena Vasquez sat in a sunlit laboratory at the university's research wing. She was surrounded by monitors displaying genetic sequences, climate models, and social media sentiment graphs. She'd spent the morning drafting grant proposals and peer reviews. But her mind kept drifting back to the man at the Meridian Cafe, the one who said he had been everywhere and nowhere at once. On her desk lay a copy of the shimmering card, "You're invited to remember who you are." Next to it, her own brass box rested unopened. Now she reached for the box and turned it in her hands. Inside was a fragment of a soapstone carved into a small labyrinth. Elena traced her fingertip along the carved path. The grooves were worn smooth as if someone had practiced this passage countless times. She felt a flutter of recognition. The labyrinth wasn't a metaphor she had studied in college, a symbol of inner journey and integration. She closed the drawer and rose, slipping on her white coat. Today, she decided she would leave the lab and take a walk, a truly walk, through the campus gardens she'd ignored for years. She wanted to feel the sun on her skin and notice the shape of each leaf, the direction of the breeze. Halfway through her walk, Elena spotted Kai Wen, no relation to Maya, leaning against the lab building, headphones on, watching code scroll on his phone. He was a freelance data security specialist she'd met at a conference. They'd exchanged polite greetings, but never more. Now, Elena approached him. Kai, right? We met at the symposium last spring. He lifted his eyes, bright, curious. Dr. Vasquez, I was just decoding some network packets for a private client. What are you up to? Taking a break, she admitted. Mentioning motioning to her card and labyrinth. And I thought I'd see where the path leads. Kai nodded, tapping his phone. Funny you say that. I just came across a data stream that keeps repeating a pattern, symbols flashing the social media feeds and digital billboards downtown. Looks like someone is broadcasting a message to anyone paying attention. Elena's pulse quickened. What symbols? Kai opened his phone and showed her a captured image, a spiral glyph, glowing like neon. It matched the spiral on the stranger's pen and the coin he placed in Meridian Alley. I've been tracking it for a few days, Kai said. It's always been the same shape. But it appears in different contexts. On ad screens, on delivery drone tags, even carved into random urban fixtures like park benches. Wherever it is, they're everywhere. Or whoever it is, they're everywhere. Elena's mind reeled. So the stranger, or whoever he is, has a network and he's seeding messages. Kai grinned. Seeding, yes. The question is why? And what the next step is for anyone who decodes the message. Alina clicked her tongue. Excitement mingled with apprehension. I need to see this for myself. Will you show me where to find the latest sightings? Well, they spent the next hour tracking locations, Kai guiding her to city surveillance feeds and social media geotags. Each instance of the spiral glyph appeared and vanished quickly, like a blink in time. At each spot, Alina recorded coordinates and context. A graffiti artist tagging a brick wall, a holographic bus stop ad flickering between commercials and the spiral, a dinner plate painted with a glyph at a hip restaurant. The variety astonished her. This was deliberate, orchestrated, and meant far more than simple street art. As dusk approached, Alina's data points formed a map on glyphs crisscrossing the city, an invisible constellation that only a few seekers like her and Kai could see. She felt a surge of purpose. This was her first tangible clue in the stranger's invitation to remember. She had to follow it. Meanwhile, Leo Brennan strode through an art district alley at sunset, his sketchbook tucked under one arm, walls covered in graffiti and paste-up posters were his canvas. He'd heard from Maya about the feather and sand and from Joe about the stranger's offer. Now he wanted to leave his own mark on the city's evolving tapestry. He carried a can of purple spray paint and a stencil he'd made into his studio that afternoon. A pair of eyes, half opened, radiating 7 rays. He found a clean patch of brick, scrubbed by rain, and pressed the stencil to the wall. His hand moved with confident precision, dab and spray, lift. There it was. Eyes that watched passerbys, urging them to notice what they were normally overlooking. Leo stepped back, admiring how the street lamp's glow set the purple in relief against the bricks. As he packed up, a small crowd had gathered, 5 or 6 curious onlookers snapping pictures with their phones. One teenage girl, her earphones dangling, stared at Leo with admiration. "That's beautiful," she said. "It's meant to say, wake up," Leo explained. "Notice your own eyes. Notice everything you're not usually noticing." The girl nodded thoughtfully. "I will. Thank you." Leo closed his sketchbook, feeling the same tremor of connection Joe and Elena experienced earlier. His art was no longer an isolated practice, but a part of a larger movement of awakening. Night fell and the city lights bloomed against the darkening sky. The 5 seekers, Joe, Maya, Elena, Kai, and Leo, found themselves drawn to the rooftop garden where the stranger had first gathered the circle. Each arrived with their own discoveries, the feather and sand, the labyrinth and glyph map, the awakened artwork. They met as planned, standing in a circle under strings of lanterns that cast soft pools of light on the rooftop's wooden deck. The air was cool, scented with lavender and the distant promise of rain. The stranger emerged from the shadows, his figure framed by the city's skyline. He held no notebook this time, only an open palm turned upward as if offering space. You have made your first encounters, he said, voice gentle but resonant. You have felt the stirrings of remembrance in music and data and art and memory. Each of you has glimpsed a thread in the tapestry. He let his words hang, and the group felt the weight and possibility in them. Tomorrow, he continued, we will follow these threads into the school in the shadows, where lessons await those who would deepen their awakening. But tonight, let us honor what we have discovered. He closed his palm, and in his hand lay 5 tokens: Maya's feather, Joe's coffee-stained card, Elena's labyrinth, Kai's data flash drive, and Leo's painted stencil pressed into wax. He offered each back to its owner. Carry these, he said, as reminders of where you began this journey, and remember, every encounter is a mirror. Look, listen, and learn. The circle bowed their heads as the stranger faded into the moonlit shadows. They stood together beneath the stars, each clutching their token, feeling the hum of the city and their own hearts in harmony. A new chapter had begun.